before and after. I love before and after pictures. Like maybe that photo of you looked good before, but you think it looks even better after you added that Instagram filter. Or maybe your hair looked one way before that social distancing saga that started in 2020, but after it was, well, a little different to say the least. Or maybe your home looked pretty good before, your family did some landscaping, but now it looks amazing after. When I was in 8th grade, I grew a ton. I think I grew something like 2-3 inches that year. I went to being one of the taller guys in my class. And by the time I was a freshman in high school, I passed my dad. I was half an inch from being 6 feet tall, and I was on track to being like 6'2" or 6'4". My before and after 8th grade looked pretty dramatic. Unfortunately, I haven't really grown since, and I still look at that half inch that separates me from 6 feet with much disdain. I think we all love a good before and after because if we're honest, most of us assume that people just can't change. We think we're all just sort of the way that we are, for better or worse. You think that your sister will never stop borrowing your stuff without asking. Your brother will always be annoyed with you. Your parents will never be less strict with the rules in your house. Your best friend will always be a little too talkative. Your coach will never stop yelling, and that bully on the team will always be a bully. And whoever it is, we see those people and often think they're just not capable of change. And truth be told, I think a lot of us apply the same line of thinking to ourselves as well. If you're anything like me, you might want to change something about yourself, but you think it's too hard or maybe even impossible. I mean, when things are going great, we don't really mind if things stay the way they are, but when things are hard, when we're struggling with anxiety or we're failing a class or we're fighting with a friend, or maybe we're just trying to cover up a bad choice, well, then we think things will never change. Maybe you feel this way because of the situations or the circumstances that you're in. It's where you live, or the tensions in your family, or the quarantining that feels like will never end. Those sorts of things feel difficult to change because for the most part you can't control them. You can't choose them, you didn't choose them, and you can't do much to make them different. Or maybe you feel this way because of the fact that you're in middle school or high school and you still live at home, and the adults in your life still seem to have a lot of the control in your world. They get to decide a lot of things that impact your life, like your curfew, or if you're allowed to have a phone, or what apps you can have on it, who you can hang out with. And right now, it just feels like you don't have the power to change much of anything at all in your life. Maybe you feel this way because of a lot of the mistakes that you've made. You've lied, you've cheated, you've covered up bad choices, and now you feel like those things kind of define you. You'll never be able to change or move on from those mistakes. Or maybe you feel this way because of what you see in other people. Your mom or your dad or your best friend or your older brother, they haven't been able to change. You've been told a million times that things will be different, but well, they're not. Nothing changes, and eventually you start to wonder if change is even possible. If those people can't change, then why should we think that anybody can change? You see what I mean? We all just sort of operate under this idea that things are just the way that they are. And because of that, whether we realize it or not, what we're saying is that we believe that really nothing else is possible. And all this brings us back to the story of Zacchaeus. Over the last few weeks in our 5th through 8th grade environment, we've been talking about how we have a personal faith because we have a God who made his relationship with us personal. And we've been talking through an encounter Zacchaeus had with Jesus. And just to review, Zacchaeus was a guy with a bad reputation. He was a tax collector who nobody liked because he cheated people out of their money. He lied, he stole, and all that made him the kind of guy nobody wanted to hang out with. In most everyone's eyes, Zacchaeus was a bad guy who would just never change. But then Zacchaeus had a personal experience with Jesus. As you might remember, Jesus spotted Zacchaeus up in that tree, and then Jesus went over to him, called him by his name, and even invited himself over to Zacchaeus' house. Now, of course, people were shocked. In fact, if we look back at what they said in response to Jesus' interaction with Zacchaeus, this is what it says. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He has gone to be the guest of a sinner." So obviously this crowd thought that Zacchaeus was a sinner, and it seemed like they thought that this was all he would ever be. And because of that, of course, Jesus shouldn't want to be in his home. He shouldn't want anything to do with Zacchaeus. But as you might remember, Jesus made it personal by stepping into love and to get to know Zacchaeus regardless of what other people, and even maybe Zacchaeus himself, might have thought. And look what happened as a result. But Zacchaeus stood up and he said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." Now, talk about change. In this short interaction, Jesus didn't say much. From what we can tell, he didn't give Zacchaeus a lecture or preach a sermon or call him out for his mistakes. He didn't limit Zacchaeus to the sum of his bad choices. Instead, Jesus treated Zacchaeus like a person he cared about, a person he knew by name, a person he wanted to hang out with, a person with the potential to change. And that changed everything. See, because of what Jesus did for him, Zacchaeus was able to change. He offered to not just pay everyone back, but to give them at least 4 times what he stole from them. His personal encounter with Jesus changed his life, and then it changed his relationship with the people around him. Zacchaeus was now someone who was committed to making things right. That was a change. And here's what I think is so cool about this story. Jesus didn't wait to approach Zacchaeus until after he changed. He looked at Zacchaeus before, and he saw his potential to change. And he looks at us the same way. See, it's personal because Jesus knows your potential. He knows that no matter who you are, how old you are, what circumstances you're in, or the things you've done, that you have the potential to change. Your life can change. Things can be different. You have the potential to change. So what does this mean? Well, for starters, if you want to see change happen, the first thing you should do is start hanging out with Jesus. When Jesus spent time with Zacchaeus, it got personal. It helped him change, and it can do the same for us. If you want to see change in your life, start by spending time with Jesus. This can happen in all kinds of ways, through prayer, worship, journaling, reading your Bible, spending time at church or with your small group. However you choose to do it, I can promise that spending time with Jesus will change you. Then look around to the people that Jesus put in your life. How can you help them see their potential? How can you encourage them to change? And remember, it's personal because Jesus knows your potential. And that's true not just for you, but for the people around you too. So who in your life have you viewed like Zacchaeus? Who have you believed just can't change? This week, take a step to change the way that you see them. Pray that Jesus would help you see their potential. Ask Him to make it personal with them like He has for you. And ask Him to help you to be a voice of encouragement towards change in their life. Because just like Jesus made it personal for us, He wants to use us to make it personal to others. Remember, there's no age restriction for this to happen. As a middle schooler or high schooler, you have so much potential right now. There's no limit. You simply have to start believing that change is possible. Zacchaeus climbed a tree to see Jesus, and something significant took place when he did that. It got personal. His life changed, and the same can be true for us. When we step forward towards Jesus, we open ourselves up to the potential of big change. It's personal because Jesus knows your potential. So maybe in the next few minutes before service starts, think about this question and maybe talk with your family about this. What's one thing that I want to change about my life right now? Ask your family to help you and give them the permission to help you. We're all stronger together. All right, so thanks for tuning in early. Service is about to begin in a few minutes, so hang tight and we'll see you here soon.